Cancer, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits, and I let you know how they're going to aspect your natal sun and what impact that will have on your day to day. We're going to start off really broad with the big stuff, with the general charts for the week. And then I'm going to move into Cancer-specific information, and then I will finish with breaking everything down into the 3 decans of Cancer. A decan is a group of 10 degrees, and by doing this, I can get a more accurate understanding of what is actually aspecting your natal suns based on your birthdays, as opposed to just lumping you all together and saying it's all going to happen to Cancer, because that's just not how it works. So let's get into the big stuff, Cancer, shall we? All you need to know for this video to understand this video is your birth date. That's it. I'm going to translate everything else for you. So we do have some really interesting astrology. I really like it because it's softly impactful. We have a grand trine all week long between Pluto, Uranus, the Sun. Now, Pluto is about dynamic, metaphoric change, and Uranus, metamorphic change. Excuse me, not metaphoric, metamorphic change. And then Uranus is about dynamic, ingenuitive change and rebellion. And then we have that trine to the Sun. There is an easement here in that it's all in Earth. There is an easement as to what you've been stuck in and what you've accepted as true. As this is just who I am, this is what I'm about. There's an easement here this week, and that leaves room for expansion. The Sun all week long is also opposite Neptune. So we're gonna be asked or have a conversation with yourself. How have I deceived myself? Especially with regards to my limitations, and how can I open myself up to change now? We also have Mercury going direct today on the 15th, so that's actually going to be more contentious than it sounds. Everyone's like, yay, Mercury's finally direct. No. When Mercury finally post-direct and like the week before Mercury goes into retrograde, these are the shadow periods. And this is really when the energy of Mercury really gets wonky and we feel the most, stuff falling apart. So what makes this Mercury going direct, what makes this so intense is that Mercury is in opposition to Saturn while this happens. Now, this opposition to Saturn will break by the 17th, but ultimately when Mercury goes direct, it's in opposition to Saturn. How frustrating, restrictive, and difficult is that? It's just going to make things extra difficult for the next couple of days or through the 17th. Just an FYI. We also have Mars opposite Chiron, which is all about dealing with trauma and facing some kind of pain, especially physical injury, facing it and having to maybe even in some ways re-experience it. This is not the best time for anybody to be pushing themselves too hard physically, in that things will come up in order to make you see maybe what you have to heal. Right? And then we have Venus, which is really optimistic. She is sextile to Mars, which is sexy, virile energy. She is, it means action and movement. Vitality is coming back into value and beauty and optimism and fun and playfulness, but also hopefully finance. Then we have a square to Jupiter, which is decadence, indulgence, definitely joie de vivre. Sometimes it means we're going overboard. And then we have Venus also trine to Chiron all week long, which means no. She's been humbled by her experiences, by what she's seen, by what she's learned. So there's this sense of this, even though the square to Jupiter can make us a little bit more decadent, and the sextile to Mars can make us more impulsive. I think that grounded energy to Chiron means that we're healing in a way. We're healing our values. We're healing what we value. Maybe we're even changing based on what we've learned, right? By all the challenges we've been through. And then by the 20th, Venus also will be in a position, she'll be at about 17 degrees Leo, where she was a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, where she was squared to Jupiter, and at that point she'll square to Uranus at the same time. Now, Venus square Uranus does agitate things a little bit because all of a sudden you're stimulated in ways that you weren't stimulated before. there are opportunities that you're open to or things that you want to explore. It's really all about independence, freedom, rebellion, and being experimental, trying new things. If you are in long-term relationships, the best thing that you could give your partner and that your partner could give you is space to be your own person and open-mindedness to be able to play and try new things together. If you're meeting somebody around this time, around the 20th, and throughout the next week, I would say that it's going to be the weirdest and maybe most wonderful experience you have, but it won't usually last beyond the square to Uranus. It's just what I'm saying. But it's almost like sometimes we have to deviate from what we're doing to be able to continue to appreciate what we have. So there is that deviation there, beginning on the 20th. Let's jump into Cancer specific energy, shall we? There's nothing happening in the zodiac sign of Cancer that's a real big deal. But the moon, what is the moon doing? Well, the moon's very active. And I will definitely tell you who it is impacting the most, like which Cancerian it's going to really be impacting the most, because as it conjuncts all these planets, it's going to be creating aspects to specific natal suns, and we'll get into that. So on the 16th, the moon conjuncts Mars, which is already a volatile energy. It's very emotional and angry, but very powerful. It's usually also very defensive. And then we also have an opposition to Chiron, the 16th through the 17th. The 16th through the 17th, expect that it may surprise you, but there are traumas from the past, childhood traumas, stuff with your parents that you kind of come up and you have to deal with it. Even just the emotions of it, those kind of tensions will bubble to the surface, and good, because then you'll know what to heal. But in terms of our emotions, that could be a very emotional couple of days, especially with angry reactions because of stuff that we've been through. Then on the 18th, we have, and that's while the moon is in Libra. Then on the 18th, it's going to be, between the 17th and 18th, it moves into Scorpio. So by the 18th, when it's in opposition to Jupiter, it is in Scorpio. This opposition to Jupiter is very robust and optimistic, because it's not just opposite Jupiter. The moon is also going to be sextile to Mercury and trine Saturn at the same time. So that is really opportunistic, open-minded, talk to people, almost like not being shy, really being out there, really putting yourself out there and wanting to talk to people and wanting to be seen and being heard and being effective at doing it. So that's a really great day. If many of you are planning interviews or anything like that, this is a really great day to do that. That would kind of help you out a lot, especially if you are Cancerians that are born in the middle of Cancer. So that would be second decan Cancerians. We'll get into that a little bit later, but especially for you guys, because of the position of your natal sun, this is going to be trining your natal sun. So especially for you guys, that's going to be a super powerful day for productivity. Then we move on to the 19th. On the 19th, the moon is going to be in opposition to Jupiter, which brings out the oddball, brings out the rebel. We're going to feel like we need something different, and we're just not going to be content unless we're feeling different things, and our feelings could really surprise us as well. While it's in opposition to Neptune, it's also while it's in opposition to Uranus, it's also trine to Neptune and square to Venus. So this could be when we get particularly freaky-deaky, or feel particularly ill at ease and in need of something different, something new. It doesn't mean that all Cancerians are going to go out and cheat. But I will say, especially if you're born more toward the end of Cancer season, this is going to be it's going to be trying your natal sun. So you could be a lot more open to different kinds of things and experiments with your partner that you normally wouldn't be. Just an FYI. On the 20th, sorry, I just got to write this down. On the 20th, the moon is going to be, the moon is square to Saturn and square to Mercury, and says a quick quadrate to Chiron. What does that mean? It means there's a lot of tension and a lot of restriction and feeling really restricted, which could make us shy and irritable. This is not a great day to do an interview. So if you got to interview, guys, do it on the 18th. Don't do it on the 20th. Or any important conversation that you need to have, or maybe you need to just want to have that nerve to call somebody that's important. Whatever it is, in terms of communications, I think, especially in terms of our emotions, which get to us, our emotions are going to be on point for that on the 18th. On the 20th, not so much. There could be a lot of tension, a lot of frustration, and a lot of anger that actually comes up, and we won't have that fluency of speech. Our brain and our emotions will not be on par, and that could cause a lot of conflict, especially when it comes to obligations. So that could be kind of a tense day on the 20th. And then on the 21st, the moon actually in Sagittarius moves into a grand trine, a grand fire trine with Venus and Chiron. So even though the day before Chiron was kind of giving it trouble, now there's this energy of this easement and easement when it comes to our passions and our fieriness, this sense of sensuality and love kind of melting into things. When it comes to Chiron in Venus, like healing. This is a very healing energy, especially when it comes to romantic energy and financial energy, because Venus and Chiron are involved, this sense of knowing what to do because you've learned the hard way and feeling better about it or about what you feel. So the full gamut of emotions are going to be felt, of course, for Cancerians, but that's a rather beautiful energy when that moon forms that grand fire trine where everything can kind of just spark to life. I really love that energy. A lot of healing can happen. Let's go into the 3 decans of Cancer, shall we? So if you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Cancer, it's in the first decan of Cancer, so you guys are Cancer ones. This is basically June Cancerian. So if you're born between the 22nd of June and July 1st, you would be in the first decan of Cancer. Your natal suns are going to be really, really tantalized. They're going to be a semi-square to Venus, semi-square to Jupiter, sextile to Mercury, and trine to Saturn. This is a super confident time for you. Now that trine to Saturn is all year long, so it's all about expanding and growing and easing into your sense of authority. It's almost like staking your own claim to your own life. This is a maturing energy, but it's going to be happy. It's going to be fluent. It's going to be harmonious. It could be a great time for career too. This week, because of that semi-square to Venus and Jupiter that are square to each other, there is that sense of really enjoying life and almost being like spurred, like poked by optimism to like just get yourself out there. Sextile to Mercury also means communication will go really, really, really well, especially after that first part of the week where Mercury is still in opposition to Saturn. I would say wait till like the 18th, and then all this energy all week long is going to be really, really nice. The 18th we already know is particularly nice, so that's my bet if you have any real important stuff to handle on this week. Let's move on to Cancer 2s. Okay, so if your natal suns are between 10 and 19 degrees Cancer, you guys are Cancer 2s. This correlates to birthdays between, say, the 2nd through the 11th. Your natal suns, there's a lot happening when it comes to the moon's conjunctions because a lot of planets are here. They're in the second decans of other zodiac signs. So your natal suns are square to Mars all week long. That is tough energy. It can make you pop offish and angry, and I would not try to be too physical. There's an increased possibility of injury, especially since your natal suns are in a long-term square to Chiron and Mars is in opposition to Chiron. This is not the best week to push yourself physically. I'm not saying don't, go with the flow. Be more flowy and be easier on yourself, and definitely give yourself more time to decompress, because this pop offish energy could really make you bat heads with people. and become very defensive, especially because of that square to Chiron. But you also have that sextile to Jupiter, which means that even crazy shit and contentious shit can lead to fantastic stuff. So it is still, you have that benefit of that beautiful sextile to Chiron. It is like this blessed energy. And as the week starts to clear and the planets go direct, I think you're going to start to feel a lot more of that luck happening to you. It's just been a little delayed. On the 16th, the moon, when it is opposite Chiron and conjunct to Mars, is square to your natal suns. So the 16th in particular, shitty day for you. I'm just saying. I'm just going to say it how it is. A crappy day, emotional day, angry, pissed off, irritated. I would make that a self-love day. Right, just to say, you will be very fiery that day, to say the least. On the 19th, on the 18th, your natal suns are going to be trine to the moon. That's a beautiful day for you guys. That's a beautiful day because that's when the moon is opposite Jupiter, sextile Mercury, and trine Saturn. Anything important you got to do on that day, you can schedule it. It's going to be a beautiful frickin' day for you guys because you're just going to be in harmony with everything about you and all those other beautiful aspects, aspecting the sun, helping to, you know, make its moody ass optimistic and open. Oh my God. That's a beautiful day for you guys. And then we have the 21st. The 21st, your natal suns are going to be quincunx to the moon, which can cause a little bit of tension, but there is that grand trine. So it's almost like in some ways, you're going to be super spicy that day, whatever that means. But I think it's also going to help direct where you can direct your passions, right? There's some sort of agitation, but agitation as inspiration, like you're going to want to do something, and I think it's going to come off more as confidence than anything else. Let's go on to Cancer 3s. So Cancer 3s, if you know your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Cancer, you're Cancer 3s. That correlates to birthdays between the 12th and the 22nd of July. Your natal suns all week long are sextile to the sun. This offers charisma and confidence. So that's really freaking helpful. It's a good time to put yourself out there and be successful. Your natal suns are in a long-term square to the nodes, which means you're sort of recalibrating and readjusting where your comfort levels are. And things that used to make you uncomfortable will not be making you uncomfortable anymore. And those things that used to be making you comfortable will bore the crap out of you. You'll want to change. It's like your life is turning a corner for the next couple of months. And then we have long-term opposition to Pluto. That ain't going nowhere, right? For the next couple of years, you're going to feel it. So this just makes you very formidable, very dynamic, and your personality very poignant. And people are going to be able to feel you coming from a mile away. And so sometimes it's good if you intentionally try to dial it back, not to be fake, but to be less intimidating. You will intimidate people. Now, if you could learn how to wrangle that, you could get away with a lot of shit. But at the same time, you want to let this energy empower you so that you are bolder instead of allowing it to allow you to impose yourself on others more. Just an FYI. You have a long-term sextile to Uranus, which is all about dynamic shifts, ingenuitiveness, and strange, wonderful things happening to you. Trine to Neptune, so creative, so open. You have got to allow yourself to create. For the next couple of years, this is true. On the 19th, your natal suns are going to be trine the moon when the moon is in opposition to Uranus. That is a harmonious position. So this is almost like easing into your differences, easing into the things about you that were even surprising you, and easing into everything that makes you unique. This could be quite a beautiful day for you. So you let me know in the comments below. I would love to know how all this energy is impacting you guys. Definitely remember to like this video and share it with anybody that you know might be interested in it. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and come on over and join me on Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. I love you guys. Talk to you in the videos.